Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to Snow the Goalie, the only Flyers podcast, the People's Podcast, the Players Podcast, the Prognosticators Podcast, the Pedialyte Podcast, the Here Comes the Bride podcast. I'm Russ Joy on Twitter at JoyOnBroad. Over on the other side, Bundy at Therien6. But really, today is all about the man in the middle, the man who is now a married man, Mr. Anthony Racioppo. Let's give it up. Oh, wait, it's the other way. That's right. Anthony SanFilippo, how are you doing? You're glowing. You very clearly are a very happily wedded man.
Well, am I glowing more than you were at the end of the night on Saturday? That's all I want to know. Russ, I even tried to upload some of the video of you and the dancing fool that you were. I know I put one out on Twitter, but I have more of them. And for some reason, for whatever reason, StreamYard does not allow me to upload MOV files. So we're just going to have to. It's a shame, really. It's a shame we can't show. It's a shame we can't show off your dancing prowess.
There is actually a way to do it, but I don't have to tell you. It's okay.
How about I email them to you and you put them up there?
You could try that.
But otherwise, I'm doing great. It was a great night. It was great to have all of my family and friends there, including the two of you. It was a lot of fun. Bundy got out on the dance floor too for a little while.
He did.
There is no video of it, but I can confirm that he was out there cutting the rug like he promised.
There should be video. There should be. The guy was there.
I should say there's no video that I personally have. Other people might have it. There's a chance that our professional videographers got it when we see the final video.
He will have it. I didn't do the worm, but
yes, if he has it, then when we get it, when we get the final video, I will absolutely share that so that everybody can see it. But it was a great time. And yeah, Russ, if you're so inclined, I just emailed you to your Joy Media email account, the videos. So if you want to pull them up to share,
I'll see if I can find them. Yeah, to
share how well you were enjoying yourself. The time you were
great guy, top notch. That was a hell of a night, guys. It really was. It was.
And Bundy, how good was Russ as the officiant?
Honest to God, amazing. He did a great job. He didn't make it about himself like he usually does. And, I thought he really celebrated you and Maria in style.
Yes, he did. He was great. He was fantastic. He was
great.
Fantastic.
I appreciate it. Great job. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It was truly a great night. The funniest part was Ant had his phone out. And I made the joke during the ceremony about how, to his mom and to Maria's mom and to the one Aunt Jed's that, the videographers, the photographers are going to take better pictures than they will. I swear to you that there were a few times I saw Anthony trying to blackmail me, right? Taking videos of me on the dance floor. And at one point he's like, Russ, you got to find Bundy. Go take a video of Bundy. Go put it on the Snow the Goalie account. I was like, dude, it's your wedding day. Chill out. Everybody just take a breath. The content isn't more important than enjoying the night and living in the moment. But it was a really great time. What a absolutely beautiful bride. Maria looked the happiest. I mean, I still don't think that she knows what she's gotten herself into, but she was glowing that day. She was glowing that night. And I have to say, the pizza that you had ordered to the bar after, that came in very clutch. I think I might have to take up sobriety like our pal Bundy, because that next day, that walk to Wawa was just not.
I can't believe you were up to walk to Wawa at the hour that you were up, considering you were weren't you one of the last 4 people down at the bar? You were still there after I left the bar.
I don't know. No, I don't remember. I think it was, yes. I think I was out till 1 or so.
I went to bed and you were still out there with my son, who he can party too a little bit. And then a couple of my high school buddies. So the 4, and my friend Mark from the theater. It's the 5 of you were still kind of hanging out at the end. Russ, 2 things. I just want to say this before we dive into Flyers stuff. From more stuff about Russ post game.
I don't like this.
He was sitting. My younger son's date to the wedding speaks multiple languages, but she's a native Spanish speaker. Russ spent 30 minutes having a debate with her in Spanish. And then all of a sudden he tried to switch languages. She said once it got to him doing Russian, like that she was out. I said, I don't think he really knows Russian. I think he was faking it, but that's beside the point.
Enough.
So there was a 30-minute Rush in Spanish conversation at the bar. And then Russ decided for a good 45 minutes to be Donald Trump at the bar. And was answering all questions from the bartenders, from other guests who were sticking around in Trump speech the entire time. He was answering everybody in that, which was entertaining. The bartenders were hysterical. They absolutely loved Russ because he was sitting there doing Trump the entire time. So
good thing I don't drink anymore. I'd still be there right now.
And did you know that Trump actually had something to say about Kolosov coming over? Did you know that?
Did he really? Did he?
Yeah. Did you see that? It was going around Twitter. You didn't see that?
No, I didn't see it. You have it?
Oh well, I mean, I could pull it up here really quick. It was it was quite the moment.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. By the way, while you're pulling that up, I should point out that we do have a super chat that is a donation to get you showing the Russ dancing videos. So thank you to Andrew Fawcett for that. I think because of that, I think you absolutely have to show them now.
All right, fine, I will. I'm just going to throw this over to former President Donald Trump really quick, talking about Alexei Kolosov, which we'll, I'm sure, get to at some point later in the show. Let's go to that real quick.
My fellow Americans, I've been asked by many people. They've said, what are your thoughts on Alexei Kolosov? They say he's coming to these United States of America. How do you feel about it? Do you believe it's a great move for Alexei and it's a good move for the Flyers, maybe even the Phantoms? It's a great move for Alexei, but I'm going to tell you why. It's not because he's going to be a Flyer. It's not because he may become a Phantom, but it's because his life has been hell. It's been absolute hell since he decided to go back to Belarus. I didn't even know Belarus is a country. It sounds like a Belarus to me, if you're asking me. And maybe you are, maybe you're not. Many people, they ask me. And they say, why would he want to leave Belarus? Why would he want to come back to America after he said he didn't want to be here? And
I'm just telling you, it goes on for a little bit longer, and nobody wants.
I'm not surprised it goes on longer.
You can go to Twitter. You can go find that. But yeah,
it is one of the best Trump impersonations you're going to find out there. I can't say it isn't. It really is really solid, Russ. You might have a second gig right there in your hands, kid.
I wish somebody find me, please. Just save me.
We're all good at something.
Yep. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. You know what was really funny though is that post-wedding scrum, I'll call it, with all the people. There was somebody at Ant's wedding, Bundy, and I think I pointed this guy out to you. He was dressed very, very well. And he came up to me no fewer than 9 times between the end of the ceremony and the end of the night and said, I have no idea who you are, but you were fabulous as that officiant. I'll shout him out to you later. And yeah, but like 9 times. And then I was like, wonder who this guy is. Wonder where this guy's date is. And then he has a wife, which was very surprising to me. And that might also be a clue of who it was from your wedding. But yeah, very, very interesting people at the SanFilippo wedding. It was a great time. But I think it's time that we actually...
just so you know, that guy is my oldest friend. We've known each other since we were 5 years old.
Look at that.
You guys played with rubber duckies in the club together, huh?
Yeah, great guy. So anyway, I guess we should probably talk about the Philadelphia Flyers since that's what we are, what we're here for. So the Flyers started preseason. I believe the last time we talked, we were kind of building up to getting out of the rookie games and just an idea of what could be going forward. Now, in the time since that, we had this little joke about Kolosov, but Kolosov is coming over. The Flyers made a goalie signing on a 2-way deal, and the next day, Alexei Kolosov magically ends up on an airplane and is apparently going to compete for a job. And I want to go to you first. I know Bundy had said before, Russian, but like, Ant, what are your thoughts here? I don't know how much you've been paying attention to it since you've left the tri-state area, but like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just getting back into it. We got back later last night. So just getting back to it. But I get the sense that Danny's press conference last week was what the impetus was here. I mean, maybe the final straw was signing the Finnish kid to that 1 year, 2-way contract. Almost like, oh yeah, we're going to move on from you, kid. You know, you don't want to be here. We'll go in a new direction. And maybe, Bonk Niemi. I think that maybe that was the final straw. But Danny basically coming out saying, we don't see it the way he sees it. He's under contract with us. We expect him to be over here. He might want to play in the KHL, NHL, or KHL. We don't see it that way. And good on Danny for doing that, because I think that this falls under, I don't want to repeat myself with this, but this falls under the same line of, we're going to do things our way. And we're going to make it so that this is how there's an expectation for everybody who comes into this organization. Now, whether that ends up being the right way or not, time will tell. We don't know. But they're committing to it. They're committing to, we're going to have a way of doing things. And everybody's going to buy into that. And if you don't want to buy into it, see you later. Somebody else will buy into it. And that's a good thing in my mind. Like I said, we won't know if it's the right way until 5 years from now, right? But in the moment, things were such a mess here that they needed to have some sort of structure to how they were going to do it and some sort of standard that they were going to set. And so for the general manager to basically come out and say what he said, good on him. Good on him, good on the Flyers. And look, it worked. Now, I will say with one caveat. There was a report that came out, I think it was Sportsnet in Canada, that reported that part of him coming over was that there's an understanding, and part of that understanding was that he would get a chance to play in the NHL. Now, I don't know what that means, how accurate that report is. I plan to look into it now that I'm back and try and get a better sense of what exactly that means. But I can only imagine that you're our third goalie. And that as soon as we have a need to bring a third goalie in, you'll get your opportunity in the NHL. But it's not going to be right away. He's going to play with the Phantoms. And he has to understand that and appreciate that and accept that. So I do think that's going to happen. I'm just curious at that one little note that came out of Sportsnet that he would get a chance to play in the NHL or go back to the KHL. I don't think that the Flyers would agree that it's one or the other. I think that there's probably a process that's part of it, but at the same time, he'll probably get a chance at some point this season to suit up for the big club.
Yeah, he'll probably be. They probably told him on the first call up, he'll be the first call up or something like that. And that happens all the time with guys trying to get one game. Like when guys are negotiating deals for college players, like, hey, he's going to sign, but you have to make sure he plays 3 games. Like that's kind of the gift for the player. So I do believe that to some semblance. The other part of this, so listen, I mean, he's obviously when a GM does that. I mean, this is the reality side of it, Anthony. He's telling the guy at the same time. I mean, if this was Nikolai Habibulin, I highly doubt he would have told him to go pound sand. Right. So I think this tells us a lot of who the goalie is. They like him, probably don't love him, but he was signed here, and you're expected to honor that, because he didn't like the conditions of what the season looked like in the American League. Too bad. That goes for everybody. There's guys that have been drafted far higher than him that have done time in the minors. That's kind of the path forward. So I don't really know what the expectation is, but it sure looks like he's going to be the number 1 goalie for the Phantoms and probably the first guy in the call-up. And I'm sure that's what Danny said. Anything happens to one of our guys and you're up. But it just sounds like when the way Danny said it last week, and I did pay attention to it, was like, all right, well, if you're here, great. And if you're not, well, that's your problem too, not just ours. And right. I think the agent, as we discussed and you mentioned before, guys, especially you, Anthony, the agent probably said, listen, like, if you look at the Flyers goaltending, if you're going to crack any team in the league, it's going to be that team. And I don't know if Kolosov realizes, like, if he came in here and had a great camp, they could have changed real quick. Like, they're not married to anybody. If he came in here and absolutely stole the show in training camp from the get-go, There was a spot waiting for him. The problem is he wanted to be handed the spot without having to earn it. And that's not really fair. I mean, who are you? I don't even know who you are. I don't know what your capabilities are. I heard you're good. I heard Fedotov was good too until he ripped, his equipment out of the box last year and tried to go out and play a game. It was difficult. So again, we're not trying to understand who these guys are too, but there's no way that anybody should ever hold the barrel of a gun over a pro franchise that's in that situation. And to be honest with you, he quite honestly probably wasn't good enough to be able to do that because Danny did tell him, you know what, whatever, you don't want to be under contract, go pound sand. And that's pretty much exactly, I think like someone said that on here. And that's exactly what I was thinking. But yeah, it's a good, I like that Danny did it. It's just the fact that like, if you had somebody that was a superstar, would you have done that too? Because then you really got to get yourself out of the situation if it's a star player in Europe. And there's been a lot of malcontents as well. So I think there was a little bit of luxury from the Russian goaltender Kolosov, but also from Danny saying like, I'm not playing with a world-class goaltender here. So I'm going to tell him either, you want to have a chance to play, you come over. If you don't, you can stay there and stew back in Russia or Belarus.
I think there are two things at play, though, with him coming over, right? Well, kind of three. One, we know that the team that he had been training with and that he has played for in the past, Dynamo Minsk, have 3 goalies under contract. One of them is injured. So there's really not a place for him right now. Two, I think that it's probably safe to say that if at some point he wants to either try to make the big club or even if he doesn't, there might be an understanding between the agent and the team that, like, in order for us to be able to even trade him, like if that were even the goal is to gauge his interest on the market, he's got to show that he can play in either the NHL or the AHL. So they'll probably want to get him some reps and actually get some film out. And that can end up being mutually beneficial for the team and the player. But the real concern that I have, and like, maybe it's something where it just ends up being water under the bridge with the fan base. I think you have to be a very online Flyers fan to have any idea what's been going on with Kolosov since the end of last year. I think a lot of times I'm the most guilty of this. I live on Twitter because it's part of what I do. And like, I tend to think that every single Flyers fan is going to be totally aware of everything that's going on. But in the case of Kolosov going back, was he upset? Was he homesick? This, that. I would bet you that on opening night, if we polled, 15,000 people walking into Wells Fargo Center, I would guess that a significant portion, at least half, had no idea what's going on. This is the concern, like what Pashendi says over on YouTube. Kolosov's behavior has been atrocious, passive-aggressive. How far gone do you have to be to demand an NHL job in a situation? Pashendi's not alone. Like, there are a lot of people who are online Flyers fans. There's the Franco 65 guy who we tend to go back and forth with a lot, has a good presence on Flyers Twitter, who essentially is like, I don't trust this guy. I don't want him anywhere around the team. I think that there maybe is a little bit of concern here, whether it's on the agent side, if it's on the team side, damage control. You don't want this guy to come over and then he gets booed out of the arena. There is some form of a mending offenses that I think is going to have to be done. It's going to have to be good PR here on the Flyers' part. I don't know what Kolosov's English is like. We assume that it's very poor or non-existent. They're going to have to do a pretty good job if they want to try to patch this up quickly, get him in front of a camera, have him kind of explain, even if it's not the total truth, like make amends with the fan base. You don't want to have the Philly fandom of all people turned on this guy as soon as he lands. You know what I mean? Like that to me is a PR concern more than anything.
Yeah, and I'm going to be curious to see when they use him in preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Will he play in front of the home fans, or will they only use him on
Guaranteed. Guaranteed, right? They put 100%. I would. If I'm the GM, 100%. He's playing the next game I can get him in front of the home crowd.
Right.
That's a dick move, but you know what? That's life.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that he needs to hear it from maybe they look at it that way. He needs to hear it from the Philadelphia fans. Like, this is what they think of you because of what you've done. But I don't know. I mean, is he the kind of guy that would go back and say, I'm out. I don't want to be part of this. And he's gone. Or does it register? Is he the kind of guy that goes, oh shit, right? Like that. Or that helps.
Or Michael's comment here is exactly right. Kolosov is dead to the fans until he plays well. Put him out for the first game. It'll probably be a smattering of cheers and a smattering of boos. It might be more boos than cheers. He goes out and makes one really good save. Fans are behind him.
People
I think that I think it's going to be, I think this is one of those things where like he didn't actively say, I hate Philadelphia and I don't want to be a Flyer. The thing that he's apparently guilty of is he doesn't want to play in the A. He thinks he's good enough to play in the NHL. Fine. If that's ego, if that's bluster, if that's part of being a young guy, young, KHL player, whatever it is, he goes out and has a good game. By the end of the game, they're going to be cheering him. It'll all be water under the bridge. I think that there's a chance that it happens, and it is a good question. Like, do you run the risk of putting him in front of the home fans? Do you let him play on the road, have a good performance on the road, and then maybe when he comes back, then the fans aren't maybe as hostile? It's a very interesting line that they have to kind of walk.
I'd put him right in at home.
Good old Bundy.
Well, that's you, Bundy.
Without any question.
Well, what do we think? Like, what do you think? I mean, you have to imagine that like Tortorella is aware of what's happened here, based on the way that he tends to get younger dudes to kind of buy in. Like, I don't know. I could totally see a scenario where he throws him out. And there's a part of me that thinks that like we did see the sort of like, compassionate Tortorella last year a little bit in the offseason here with Michkov, where he's saying like, you're not going to hear from him every time. Like, I'm going to kind of control it. Like maybe there's an older, sager part of Tortorella that says, nah, younger Torts would absolutely flame the guy. Older Torts maybe says, not worth it, especially after what happened with Sandstrom last year. And come back out and retract.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I don't think that he really dives into the goalies as much. I think he usually lets his goalie coaches handle the goalies. And he talks about that all the time, like how he doesn't, he doesn't weigh in on goaltending a lot. He just wants results, right? So and there you go. It's exactly what Andrew got it right. That's exactly what he said. And so like I don't necessarily know if Torts is the one making the decision there on how to handle that. He may have, I'm sure he's in on the conversation. There's no doubt about it. Right. But be interesting to see. I'm just curious to see when he gets into a game, whether it's a home game or a road game. We may find out because I know we'll be down there for something else next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a game down there the night that we're down there. We might find out in advance of that what's going on. So,
guys, we've spent a good 90 minutes on Kolosov the last 3 shows.
Yeah,
congratulations.
That's a lot.
He's great. He's a great player. Well,
you know what we should talk about though. Seriously, like I saw a couple signs from it. The young guys. Does Luchanko make the team? After last night, you would have thought before, who else, what other younger guys are going to take a step forward or a step back this year, like just on predictions. But certainly with Luchanko, I watched just a little bit of that game last night, guys. And I know that Torts had said this week that he's like on top of the ice, which means he's up on his skates. He's getting like he's all over the place. I don't get the feeling that was the case last night in that preseason game for Jett. And again, he's an 18-year-old kid. Why, that's not what we were expecting from him. When they drafted his name, most of us didn't even know who he was. Who else is in that boat? Oliver Bonk. He's another one. What exactly? What are they going to do? Are they going to give these guys 9 games, Anthony? Or
so here's the thing, Bundy, and I'll let you kind of address this as someone who's been in the locker room and in the situation before. And they've already kind of done it. And they usually do it at about this point in camp, as they split up the roster on who's in camp, right? And the one side at Voorhees is the guys that they're considering for the NHL roster. And the other side is who's going to be playing with the Phantoms, right? I mean, that's basically, they've already kind of separated it out. And they've kept Luchanko with the regulars.
Yeah.
Bonk is not, right? So he's on the other side. So I think that he's probably going to go back down and not get the 9 games. I think Luchanko is a guy that is in the conversation. I don't think it's a gimme by any stretch of the imagination that he's going to get those 9 games. I don't think if I had to pick today, I still don't think he's on the opening night roster. But he's going to be there right to the end. Yeah. He's going to be there right to the end.
But all the first rounders will be. I mean, again, it's just there's so many unknowns, really. But again, what I say though with Luchanko, like a forward, if you as you could do, I don't want to refer to him as like Sean Couturier, because Coots came out. We've talked about as an offensive player, and he ended up getting a really good baseline of defensive hockey in his first year, which he really excelled at, and it became a lot of his forte. This is a good opportunity, but when you're pairing a guy with like Konechny on that line, I mean, you're asking a lot. You want to get to see what he looks like against better players. A forward can go and probably make your bottom six like Luchanko. You're going to tick somebody else off that box so that they already have a spot for. Delorier, Hathaway, they already got contracts, so they, extended contracts, so you can't really push one of them out. I'm trying to think what would make sense to keep him. You can't keep a defenseman. If a defenseman's not ready and he's a 19-year-old, you can't play that kid. You can keep him around and say, oh, he's looked good in camp, but you have to forecast into the season. Defensemen are just a totally different animal, man. It's
who was
learning.
See if you
angles.
Bundy, you mentioned.
See if you remember real quick before you get to your point, Russ. Who was the last 18, 19-year-old defenseman who the Flyers kept? See if you remember.
Was it Tertishny?
No.
Was he older?
Since then.
Oh, since then. Ryan Parent?
No. Oh, that's a good guess.
How young was Coburn?
No,
he wasn't. He was already drafted.
Luca Spiza.
Ah,
remember Luca Spiza?
Yeah,
he ended up getting traded for Pronger.
Yeah.
But they kept him.
He should never have been in the NHL that year. Never.
Correct.
Absolutely not. And they probably ruined a
it.
little bit of that kid by doing that.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, Provorov too. No, he went back to junior Provorov for a year.
Provorov went back to junior for a year. Yeah.
Bundy, you mentioned before about how Torts has been talking about these guys and about the Luchankos, about the Bonks. I think the thing that you should maybe take a little bit of solace in if you're a Flyers fan is this came from the Standard that they're doing their YouTube series. But for those who might have missed it, like listen to how Tortorella was talking about. Now this is, I think, a week or so ago, but this is him talking about Luchanko, about Bonk, and about like the possibility of those guys needing to actually get more than just a cursory look.
Look at Luchanko. He's on top of the ice. I have thoughts there too with Luchanko.
There's not many that can keep Tim moving on a skating drill.
No.
He's right there with Tim. It's like, wow.
I just think we need to keep our options open with a Luchanko and Bonk. Got to play. Got to see what they are.
So,
can I say something about that?
Luchanko and Bonk are like, wait a minute.
Can I say something about that? All right.
Go ahead, Ant. Yeah, I swear to God, if this ends up being, Russ, I did flight plan way back in the day, and blah 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 blah.
Well, okay, so you know that, right? And so you know what the process is. So when you're doing these videos, right, they are giving you access. There's no question, and this is great, okay? But it is planned access, right? And so in other words, that's not like some kind of, the cameras just happen to be rolling and catch that conversation. We want the fans to get excited about these kids. So we're going to say that in this video and put it out there so everybody gets excited about it, right? That's what that is. So I pumped the brakes just a little bit on that because it's a little bit of a staged video. Okay, just a little bit. That's not to disparage Luchanko. It's not to disparage Bonk. I'm sure they're certainly considering them. I'm sure they're certainly looking at them and thinking about, can they play at this level? But it shouldn't be taken at any more than that basic level. I do not think that they would put that out for a young player that early in camp. Would they put that out there for consumption so that those kids go, okay, I made the team? Like, that's not what it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that that's going to be a thing that's there. Just wanted to kind of pump the brakes just a little bit on that.
You didn't hear me earlier, right, Ed? The two kids are watching. They're watching Flight Plan right now. Like, yes, we're going to go play for the Flyers and sit in the press box.
That's right. Now, look, there is value to say that, sit in the press box. There is value to practicing with an NHL team on a regular 100%. Basis. Yes. There's great value to that, right? Yeah. So you could look at it from that perspective too. They could stay here and not be in games, right, for a little while and be practicing at the NHL level before they get sent back to junior. So you could kind of extend it beyond 9 team games because it's 9 games played as a player. Right? Not sitting in the press box. But I don't necessarily know if there's benefit to not having a guy play just so that he can practice with the team long term. Maybe do it for a few games, but you can't do that for 2 months. Like that's not
a lot easier though, Ant. You agree though, for a forward to make the team than a defenseman at that age? Like if you look through the league, right? Like I've said this before, I'm not complaining about the league. The league has too many players. That's a fact. There's too many players that are just not good enough on a nightly basis in this league. That for me, why not give the kid the forward a shot? If he brings energy and speed to a lineup, I don't have a problem, because there's other teams in the third and fourth line that have a bunch of slugs. And so I'm saying, like, if you're a forward, you can get in on the forecheck, create a little bit of a buzz, be a little bit of a pest perhaps at the same time while providing some good defensive hockey in your own zone and then still growing offensively. I'm all for that. The difference with a defenseman is you can ruin a defenseman. If your kid comes up and he shits the bed as a defenseman, I'm telling you, you can have a roller coaster on your hands for 2 or 3 years. You got to be careful, but you have to be really sure that defenseman is ready to play. I've seen a lot of D-men where they look real promising. And then they get some time under the belt. They've been rushed to the forefront of that team. And it sometimes doesn't work out. And there's a lot of young defensemen that's happened to. Spies is one. Drysdale. It'll be interesting to see how he kind of comes back from that trade last year with a fresh slate. He'd been through injuries. I think Anaheim probably played him a little bit too early because they had a shitty team. They still do. And that forces teams to do things that they're not comfortable doing, but they have to do it anyway because they need bodies. And so that's an actual really good one to think about, as guys develop and developing more. But I'm just making the point that you can plug a forward in a lot easier than a young defenseman.
I agree a lot. Now, one other thing.
I actually do have one thing about Michkov really quick here.
All right, go ahead. This might actually be a good transition into the one thing I want to talk about.
So there was a story that came out where Ivan Demidov, who everybody knows I wanted the Flyers to trade up for, Montreal finally got their rush in after they passed up on Michkov. And Demidov had a really interesting quote where he said that he thinks there's a path to Michkov playing center in this league because of his vision and his playmaking. Now, we talked about this like a couple weeks ago, but this idea of like this year will be interesting to figure out what exactly is Matvei Michkov, because we've only seen so much film. We only know so much. Is he going to be a sniper? Is he going to be a playmaker? Where does he best make sense? Based on like the rookie game, based on what we've now seen of him in preseason, there is a very, very dynamic passer in this guy, and he demonstrated tremendous vision last night, especially. Do you guys see a scenario where the Flyers maybe at some point this season, not to start, but could you see a scenario where before the end of this season, we see Matvei Michkov get some minutes at center just to see what they have as they kind of plan out what next year's draft will look like and what the free agent strategy will look like? Do you think there's any possibility there?
I mean, it's possible, but there's a lot more to learn at that position than there is on the wing. So I think if you're looking at, you don't want to overwhelm a 19-year-old by making him play a new position in the NHL, right? He's already got enough to learn as it is in the way he has to play the game. Is it possible that you get like a little taste of it here or there? Sure, I think so. And I think that the Flyers would be smart to give it a look at some point. Just to see, but you can also you could be a playmaker off the wing as well. You don't have to just be a scorer on the wing. Like you could be a playmaker on the wing. Guys have done it in this league for many, many a year. And so I think it's possible. The one thing that I think is going to be most interesting is to see if he's playing, let's assume he's playing with Morgan Frost. If Morgan Frost can develop into a little bit more of a goal scorer than he's been in the past because of that vision that Michkov has, and to sit there and say, I got to get to scoring areas because he can get me the puck. He can find me and then see if I can finish like that. That is as much of an interesting potential development, I guess, to watch for, to see if he develops as well as Michkov. Because, we've had so many people both on this podcast and in the, out there in Flyers Twitter and wherever else, who have fallen on one side or the other as far as Morgan Frost is concerned. Either you think that there's great talent there and he could be a really good player, or you don't think he's as talented as other people do, and you think he's ultimately not a good enough player. This is a season to really find that out, because he's going to be playing with a kid that can score and has good vision. So you say, in that regard, Frost's production should increase and should improve. So I think that will be just as interesting of a byproduct of Michkov as it will be to watch Michkov himself.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm excited. I thought Michkov is certainly. You always tell people you don't expect like Wayne Gretzky every shift. That's the part, right? There's so much excitement. I've been waiting for so long for some player to come in here that I do want people to realize he's just a kid, and he's got a language barrier to learn. He certainly has the language of love of hockey on the ice. But I also tell people, just let this kid go. Like even Jack Hughes, when he came over, before he started getting 100 points or getting close to it, they had tough rookie years, real tough rookie years, adjusting to the speed, to the long schedule. So, but certainly there's talent there. Good to see him get that goal last night, kind of break the ice at home in preseason. You don't want to wait going into the regular season, but there's a lot of excitement about Michkov, and rightly so. I've been a Morgan Frost believer, and I actually think that could be the perfect guy to get Michkov the puck. So I'm looking from that standpoint. If I'm the coach, and I'm not, I would keep Michkov on wing this year, while also giving him an opportunity to take some draws and assume that position in certain situations in a game.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if after over a year of them trying to trade, or at least entertaining trades for Morgan Frost, that like in this in rookie season of Matvei Michkov, that like they end up gelling together and they end up becoming something together. They grow together, and that ends up being the dynamic duo. Like that would almost be this weird kind of poetic justice, and it would further give Ant like one of those anecdotes to go back to 10 years from now when we're doing this show together, that like, oh, you can't give up on this young prospect too early. Remember how everybody wanted to give up on Morgan Frost? How'd that work out? There's a scenario where it could work out. Yeah, it would definitely be interesting.
There was and Bundy. Look, you said you watched some of the game last night. I didn't. I saw none of it.
Just a very, very short. Preseason is rough because you don't know. You got guys you never heard of in both teams.
Well, that was the thing I wanted to bring up, and that was one of the things I wanted to ask. And since you only watched a little bit, maybe you can't really speak to it. But I guess the thing is that from what it looks like the Islanders had one NHL line and I think 3 NHL defensemen, and the rest were minor leaguers. And the Flyers were still outshot 37-25 or whatever it was. And I saw none of it, so I can't sit here and question anything and say, how did they look, blah, blah, blah. But to me, I guess that's something that you got to look at and say, all right, 2 nice plays, 2 goals. Michkov sets up the one, scores the other. That's fantastic. But keep in mind who the competition is. And then arbitrarily, aside from Michkov, they win the game. But to give up 37 shots against 12 minor leaguers or 14 minor leaguers, whatever it was.
Eric Johnson, game winner.
Yeah. Like, to me, that's a little bit more concerning, because the Flyers did have a majority of their lineup was guys that would be on the NHL roster, and to give up 37 shots to a bunch of minor leaguers for the Islanders, I can't imagine that they were thrilled with the way they played defensively in that game.
Yeah. 0-0 through 2, and then the Flyers ended up getting it and holding on to it. But the Islanders, they couldn't score either.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised, but they couldn't score.
The other big story to come out of that game wasn't just Matvei Michkov. It wasn't his vision. It wasn't about Jett Luchanko. It was actually about NBC Sports Philly's changes that they've made. And I saw that over at Anthony's new employer on Pattison, they did a breakdown of some of the changes that are coming to NBC Sports Philly and the way that they serve their graphics on screen. This is what the score bug looked like at the top of the screen, right, with the score and the time. And this doesn't look that bad. It looks very basic. But what you don't see here, and what I can't find a video of right now that I will try to find for next time, is you see where the Islanders, how it's that kind of like grayed out, grayish white. When they went on the power play and the little bug came down below the Islanders and it showed the amount of time, they decided to go white on white. It was like white on that grayish white. You could barely read it. I have a nice big TV and I have good eyes, and I had a hard time figuring out what the hell I was looking at. So that was one. That was not great. But the other thing that they experimented with, which you can't see here, is that the NBC Sports Philadelphia logo in the top right, they experimented a few times throughout the game where it had this like white frosted kind of glow behind it. Looked fucking awful. Like it was like I was triggered last night. I legitimately was. I was like, it looked like a smudge was on the logo. And then I was like, what? I'm like, why did you change the score bug before looked fine? Why are we oversimplifying it? I felt like a man yelling at clouds.
I worked over at that fucking place.
I know you
did.
did.
Let me tell you right now, you'll see some of the dumbest people you've ever seen in your life. They've probably been working on those.
There was a Bundy bomb. Go ahead. You were saying they probably worked on those graphics.
Love your changes you guys made over the summer. I guarantee you they had 50 people in on the graphic changes.
It looked bad. Like I don't have a nice way to put it. Like it looks really bad.
Bad, awful, terrible.
It looks kind of like it looks like a high school TV production of the local football game.
And that's exactly what you get.
Look at the network you're talking about.
I can confirm it. Yeah. That was Hitchcock talking about NBC Sports Philadelphia.
When I saw when I saw the glow behind the logo, I legitimately let out. I was so mad. I'm like, this looks horrible. Who thought this was a good idea? We might have to get answers when we go down to Wells Fargo Center the next time, which apparently is going to be pretty soon.
Yes.
So.
Next week. We'll be down there.
I'm so glad you mentioned NBC Sports. I have such a special place in my heart for them. Amazing people.
Your heart? Is that where it is? It's
Russ,
your heart?
Amazing people. Amazing people.
Fantastic. Some of the best people, Bundy. A lot of people. They say, how do we get more NBC Sports Philly people? We want to bring them on to Snow the Goalie.
I remember that, this will give you warm the cockles of your heart, Bundy. There was a time when Ant and I think this is before you came on, that Ant and I were working on like, let's get a different media member from each outlet. Like, let's bring them onto the show. We'll talk about how they got their start in media, all that, right? One of our favorite people, like one of the nicest people who's down there who covers this game, this is Jordan Hall, who works for NBC Sports Philly. And they I said like, hey, are you okay to come on? He's like, yeah, I think so. And he's like, like, let's just verify it with, whoever his manager was at the time. And we're like, yeah, fine, whatever. So we go to like get him on, and then it gets held up, and they're like, there was some kind of issue. And so I emailed his supervisor, whoever it was. It was what was his name? Travis something?
Travis
Hughes. And I was like, hey, can we have Jordan on? Like, it'd be a good opportunity. Like, people get to know him more. They'll get to understand. Nothing. Like, no response. There was nothing. And like, I get annoying. Like when I start to feel like, come on, man, like, what are we doing? Oh, I just start inundating with emails. Got nowhere. Jordan Hall, great guy. Fantastic guy. Maybe the best person who works there. We don't know. Unless you like Michael Barkan's blue glasses. Bundy, do you have blue glasses?
My producer, Joe Fordyce, who did games, Joe. He's the absolute best. Like, he should probably be running the whole damn place. But he's a tremendous producer, gets along with everybody. And Jordan Hall's a good guy too. Really, he's a good person.
Yes.
There are some good people who work over there. We're not poo-pooing everyone who works over there.
There is one
couple of boneheads.
There is one big issue that we have to bring up, and I'm glad that Allison mentioned it in the comments.
Oh,
free hot dogs in the press box. I can put it up. Yes.
Thank God. No. I mean, like, there's a tweet with a picture from Bill Meltzer.
Yes.
Who go ahead. Ant, can you give people an idea over the years of how the spread has changed? I only know what it was starting in 2018.
It used to be good. Bundy, you remember back in the day, they used to have plenty of food up in the press box. And not just like, I'm not talking like real like meal type food, but like there were hot dogs, there were nachos, there were things up in the press box. You could just go grab, a little plate of something, bring it back to your seat. And as you're working, you could pick on it. Then over time, they got really cheap. And they took everything away. And the closest you could get was popcorn and candy. That was like, and even
then they got rid of the candy. They got rid of the candy for a little bit.
Then they got rid of the candy for a while, right? They got rid of the Swedish fish, which you used to, I got to admit, in Russ's first year, Russ would eat cups upon cups of Swedish Fish. Like, it was
little
outrageous.
cups. It wasn't like the full cup. It was like the little condiment cups. Let's be fair here, and a little bit of M&Ms. Then they got rid of it for a while, and then this past year, surprise, surprise, Dan Hilferty takes over. Dave Scott is gone, and all of a sudden the candy comes back. And there's somebody who probably doesn't want to be named, but I did talk to somebody who was up there. I said, how did the candy come back? And this person said, I've been banging the drum about it, got the candy back. And now Bill Meltzer puts out yesterday, new to Wells Fargo Center this season, in the press box, free hot dogs. Guys, I felt bad, like looking at some of the pictures from Ant's wedding. Like, I knew I packed on a couple pounds, but this is bad. This is bad. I'm a fan of the tubular meats, and now I'm very concerned that, like,
hey, that's after a successful comeback year last year. They make the playoffs this year. There's going to be filet in there next year.
Ant's
with buttered lobster tails.
I lost my AirPod on that. I'm a fan of tubular meats. Can we just cut that line and just use that as a drop from now on? Russ saying I'm a fan of tubular meats.
I am. I'm a fan of tubular meats. I mean, let's be honest here. Sausage.
It's called a tube
we
steak
love sausage.
in Canada.
No, I thought tube steak actually comes in like
tube
the plastic.
Steak is a hot dog in Canada.
Oh, what?
Tube steak is a hot dog in Canada. The whole
what the hell's wrong with that country? Huh? No wonder you're here. Tube steak
is a hot dog.
Tubular meats.
Tube it up, Russ. You got to get that on his shirt. Tube it up with Russ with his picture with his porn star mustache.
Just the stash.
Holding a raw hot dog, Ant.
Tubular meats. Tube it up.
Oh my God! Why?
All right, Russ.
Guys, I can't believe the fact, like, we're so close to being back down there, doing the Press Row show, doing this show regularly again. We took off the month of August. We've been back at it in September. It's been a great time.
Yeah, it's great. And you owe Andrew.
Yeah. So what I want people to understand, when we go off the rails, I want people to know that when I played, most of our life was like this conversation. Like getting ready for hockey games, getting ready for practice. We screw around. We have fun. We poke fun. We tease. We joke. We do impersonations. We used to bet on the Price is Right at 11:30 when we were getting ready to play hockey. I mean, we had a good time. So that's why I like to be sure that I bring a little bit of the locker room version of myself to the show with you guys, because that, to me, you can talk hockey all day till you're blue in the face, but if you can't have fun doing it, it ain't worth it. And I think people know by now that we love to have fun. I think a lot of our stuff we do is in tongue-in-cheek a little bit. But this is why I do it, because the locker room was the best part. Someone says, what's the worst part about leaving hockey? It's the playoffs. I miss the playoffs. And I miss 20 guys that were my best friends that we'd sit around and break each other's balls every single day and loved each other more for it at the end of it.
No. Tony Louie, by the way, asks over here, are you guys staying up until 2 a.m. to do the post-game opener? No. We're going to make an announcement here at some point about what kind of stuff we're working on. Whether we're doing the morning after show like we did for away games, what that's going to look like. We'll definitely be down there for all home games for Press Row Show. We have a few other things that we're doing. We have a few featured segments. Bundy brought some to the table that are fantastic that I think are going to be massive for engagement here with the hockey community as a whole. We'll be rolling those out. We'll be announcing those, I think, around the start of the season. And one of them we are unbelievably excited about. And sometimes when we come up with an idea, it's like, I don't know, is it going to work? Is it not? This is one that we know for certain is going to work. So
it's going to be unbelievable. I can't wait to share it with you guys. We even tell you how we got it. You know what? It's going to be great because it's going to really add, and it's going to make the show a family-friendly show.
That's right. Joe Papel also asks if there's going to be press road shows. I think so. We'll be working on setting some stuff up at a few local restaurants, bars, and stuff. So if you're out there and if you know somebody who owns a restaurant, a bar, or whatever, and wants to draw a nice big crowd and have a lot of people there, we can do the prepaid thing like we did at La Cecilia. It could be an open thing. We're open for whatever, but we're going to start working on those. I think the goal is going to be to try to do one press road show per month. That's like an ambitious goal. We'll see if we make it happen or not, but very exciting. So Andrew Jacobson with a perfect transition here. A little late to the game here. Congrats, Ant. Did the Dancing Queen live up to the Master of Ceremonies expectations? Ant, don't answer that. Let's just go to the video and let the video speak for itself. I mean,
there's other ones. You're gonna do another one? You're gonna show one of the other ones?
There are other ones. Do I have
the first one was from early enough in the night. Like that was late. Like that's
with my wife and I, you know, we're having a nice little saunter.
Is that what you call it?
I don't know. It's like a nice little, you know, dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. A very sweet moment. You know, fine. I'll throw it there, Ant.
Yeah,
it was your wedding after all. All right.
This was early.
Yeah,
this was early. You alone on the dance floor. Yeah.
No, I wasn't alone there.
But you guys were alone. And there was was one more that I got of you.
Oh my god.
Where I shot through people.
Oh yeah, that was No, I'm not putting that one.
Come on, that's the best one.
No,
that's the best one.
We're not showing that one. That was going to be on a paid tier on YouTube. We'll create a paid tier just for the videos from that night.
Come on, that's the best one. Oh, come on.
Brandon Ficara checks in here with a super chat. Thank you, Brandon. Says, can we get an on ice segment whenever Bundy slap shots hot dogs at Russ? Bundy, do you think you could slap shot a hot dog?
I could slap shot a hot dog. I put that thing top shelf for sure. Just see it flying through the air.
Oh, and by the way, Tony Louie here asks, glow sticks. Who even brought those? 90s, I don't know. I think it's rave. Yes. I think the B and the V are close. So rave vibes.
I want to shoot hot dogs, actually. Can we do that some night? Hey, you know what? You know what, guys? Now that I was talking about being on the ice, I actually do have an announcement. Snow the Goalie is part of this. Myself and Pennsylvania Recovery Center and Snow the Goalie are proud partners with the Philadelphia Flyers for Recovery Night. Coming Recovery Night and perhaps Mental Health Night, which will be in October. I'm going to have some information coming next week, but we're going to do a real big thing. Last year, remember, we did a little bit. I said, let's do it bigger and better than we've ever done it before. So there's going to be some seat discounts, some really, really cool stuff available, and pictures and whatever else you want after the game down on the ice.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love every minute of it. Hey, Russ, we have another super chat.
I'm not acknowledging that one. I'll return. I will return.
You have another super chat, Russ.
I'll return that money to Andrew Fawcett, who we love and appreciate the super chats. But I don't know if that last one can see the light of day.
I didn't even see it.
Well,
he paid he paid money to see the last video.
Oh, you can't let our Andrew Fawcett's like family to us.
You have to have good dance moves. I mean, come on, that's temperature.
Look at Nancy did her hair too. She had her hair down, then she ended up putting it in a ponytail.
She braided it. She braided it at one point. She is the best wedding date. Wow. I'm a lucky guy. Lucky guy. Anyway, fourth host Nancy. She tore up the dance floor.
She was great. Fourth host Nancy was awesome.
Yeah. So
she was awesome all day. She was responsible for stuff earlier in the day too, unheralded, getting Maria's vows down to you. Yeah, that was good.
Josh White's right, by the way. Saw me dance every morning, 8 a.m. freshman year. Not like that. I would blast music in between classes.
Russ was dancing like that.
Oh yeah, not like that. Not like, excuse me. Every single morning, I would troll. My goal every year was troll the freshmen. So I'd blast music into the hallway. School hasn't been the same ever since I left. That's what I've been told. I've been told nobody blasts music. Nobody plays music like I used to play the music. So,
Carl, hold on.
Joe Papel put
Carl joined us late. There is video of Bundy dancing at the wedding. It was done by the professional videographer. When we get that video, we will share it.
Dersh asks, be honest, Russ, did they cut you off after that? No, and there was a reason for it, Dersh. I danced like that when I was stone cold sober to start the night.
Yes.
There's legitimately no change.
We didn't soak ourselves in lamp oil and set ourselves in fire in front of the crowd.
Off the rails completely.
That's how I'm trying to highlight the right. Okay, Russ, let's go. We're done.
Because it's time to go.
Russ doesn't even know the Jerky Boys are, Ant. I guarantee.
No, he has no idea.
But I have lots of thoughts after hearing that, so I'm a little bit worried. Anyway,
the Jerky Boys. You don't know who the Jerky Boys are? Russell. Oh my God! You got to Google them.
Oh, by the way, I will say, Sean C is right, but this is a misleading video. Ant put one out on Twitter that made it look like my wife took the glow sticks, like she was scolding me. She took the glow sticks and danced with the glow sticks, and I had to go get more.
I can confirm that is true.
My wife is not a scolding parent. She took them to dance with them, and then I had to go get more. I'm pretty sure I chased Bundy out of the venue with glow sticks. Like, I'm pretty sure I drummed on his car.
You were definitely overserved. I left around a little closer to 10, but you would definitely do like you were like Bundy year one drinking.
It was a lovely night. It was a fantastic night. We had a great time. Anyway,
we did.
I think it's probably about time for us to go. Unless you guys had anything else you wanted to get to.
Nope, that's it. We're good.
Okay. We will be back. Now, we have alluded to the fact that we're going to be down there. We're doing something. And unless it gets postponed or whatever, we'll have a nice big episode coming very soon with some people that are going to matter, that have impact on things around these parts. And like we said, we'll be back for Press Row Show once the Flyers come back. Look out for other opportunities, for other things that we're going to be doing, other kinds of content that we're going to be doing this season. And if you haven't done so already, please take a minute, like the video, share the video, subscribe. And if you can, all of you wonderful people who liked it or who commented live, when the show's done posting, go back and post in the regular comment section because the algorithm on YouTube loves that kind of thing. I wish I could find the person's comment, and I meant to bring it up earlier, but there's somebody who's new to the show who only got into hockey in the last year. And I'm not going to be able to pin. Oh, here it is. Gennaro Giuletti, who says, this will be my first full season following the Flyers, was just introduced to hockey late last year. Now listen to your podcast every day. A lot of info. Grazie mille. Gennaro, what a good guy.
Sounds like someone who was at the wedding.
It kind of does, yeah. You might be right. All right.
So,
big thank you to everybody who watched live. Big thank you to everybody who listens in the podcast feed. If you do listen on Apple Podcasts, go over there, leave a 5-star review. A 5-star rating is wonderful. The review is what helps, where you write some nice things. And if you hate the show for whatever reason, leave a 5-star review and we will read it on the show. So until next time, probably next week, this has been Snow the Goalie. Find Bundy on Twitter at CTherien6 and on Twitter at AntSanPhilly. You can find me on Twitter at JoyOnBroad. We'll talk to all of you very soon here on Snow the Goalie, the only Flyers podcast. Talk to all of you very, very soon.